Hi, my name is Adler Mendela Cruz, and this is my Greek civilization final project from Bronze Age to Alexander the Great. The Bronze Age, also known as the Early Helladic period, began from the Greek around 2800 BC to 1050 BC. During this time, the Greeks made great advancements in social, economic, and technologies. This cultured Greece to be the center of the Mediterraneans. The Minoans lived around Crete. The Seleucid civilization lived on the island of the Aegean, and the Helladic lived in the now considered Greek mainland. The Minoans emerged in the islands of Crete around 2700 BC. Its name is based on the king Minos. Due to its surrounding, Crete had a great navy and had a successful trading. To handle all this economy of trade, the development of writing was discovered for the first time here in Europe. This writing was shown outside the island of Crete, showing that they did expand to other islands. The Mycenaean civilization, through gradual evolution, the Greeks blended well with the Minoan, creating the Mycenaean civilization. The Mycenaean civilization spoke the early form of Greek language. In their society, the palace was the center of their community. Pylos, a place that was burned, and clay tables was discovered. Due to the clay tablets were being burned, it was preserved. It shows how they wrote. Linear B was the form of writing that was borrowed from the Minoans. That's what they used. It was used for recording economy. Linear B would eventually be lost in the Dark Ages. Their leaders were called and ran from Warnaka, Lavagetas, Teleste, and Osiris. Excuse me. Their society was warlike. This was shown through the arts on their faces, vases. Scholars think that they ended due to war because the Mediterranean was in turmoil at that time. Invaders that were called sea people were also thought of as a reason in how the civilization ended. Scholars were not sure about who these people are. Another reason could be natural disasters. Earthquakes could be considered the end of the Mycenaean civilization. The Mycenaean civilization ended around 1200 BC. Dark Age and Iron Age. The Dark Ages or the Iron Age had lasted from 1200 BCE to 750 BCE. There were not many evidence about the Dark Ages. There were not a lot of written artifacts that told about the civilizations, and etc. During this time, archaeologists relied on pottery for evidence. They were very common burial grounds. Archaeologists divided the Dark Ages by the improvements in pottery. The Sub-Mycenaean is the earliest period of the Dark Ages based on the style of pottery. Proto-geometric period, time when improvements on the potter's wheel and improvements on designs occurred. Geometric period was the time they used abstract and complicated geometric shapes for pottery. This was Sub-Mycenaean, Proto-geometric, and geometric. During this time, trading and traveling decreased. This was also decreased the artistic styles and civilization. As the Sub-Mycenaean civilization finally ended, the Bronze Age finally moved into the Iron Age. This was a time where the Greeks civilization finally was starting to get back on its feet and recover from the Dark Ages. A new style of pottery was developed due to inspirations coming from Cyprus. It was called the Proto-Geometric that eventually evolved into geometric style pottery. Pottery from the Proto-Geometric period is characterized by the use of faster potter's wheel in fabrication and by the practice of using a compass and multiple brushes and connected to one another at equal intervals that the vessel can be decorated with concentric circles of arcs. But it is not only style of decoration that differentiated proto-geometric from sub-Mycenaean pottery. Potters, painters in the 10th century also began to take much greater care in the preparation of the clay, and modeling of the vessels, and in the integration of painted decorations of shape of vase. Ceramics were the proto-geometric period shows notable improvement in terms of the symmetry of the vessels and the technicals and the technical. Sanson, David, Ancient Greek Civilizations, Kindle location 1517 to 1522. Experimental shift was also starting to happen. A place in Greece called Attica is where the geometric pottery flourished. Geometric shapes were now used commonly for designs. In the geometric period, the use of abstract geometric shape runs wild and completely covering the surface of the vessel with sometimes dozens of bands of small triangles, lozenges, and angular meander patterns and regular devices in a restless but controlled obsession to reduce the exterior of the vase to a labyrinth organization of chaos. Samson David, Ancient Greek Civilization. Kendall location 1532 to 1535. The Greeks were very open to any cultures up until the 8th century. They had no writing, but with constant contact with the Phoenicians, the Greek became accustomed to their writing. It had 22 characters and easy to learn. Later in B had 90 characters. In a way, this was the abbreviated version of the linear B. Instead of dot, de, di, do, do, there was now one character for all of them. The Phoenicians' way of writing was good and all, but it did not match properly with the Greek language. A little tweaking was needed, and this resulted in the Greek's first alphabet. Location 163 of the same book. By 700 BC, the modification was adopted by other countries. In the beginning, in the 8th century, the Greeks were expanding. Archaeologists finding their writings on the east side of Rome led to this. This led to colonies of just Greeks. Non-Greeks were kicked out of the land, and where they settled were now called Hellas, or land of the Hellenes. Land of the Hellenes. Polis was also established. Sanson described it as a self-governing territory consisting of an urban center, often containing a heavily fortified citadel, with a surrounding agricultural area, generally of the size of such that I can walk from one end of it to the other in the course of a day. Samson David, Ancient Greek Civilization, Kendall location, 1703 to 1705. This urban center also contains an agora. This is an urban center where members of the polis conduct trade and political business for everyone in the polis. A more polis was soon established. They worship similar gods that had celebration for them called Pan-Hellenic. All the Hellenes were able to participate. One of the most popular celebrations was the Olympic Festival. This would take place in the Temple of Zeus during the geometric period, and the importance of the celebration increased. Now offerings such as terracotta and tripods were sacrificed. The Olympic Games was also used to celebrate the gods. It began in 776 BC. Only male Greek citizens were able to participate. Judges of these games were called the Hellenodikai, or assessors of the Greeks. Archaic period from 750 BC to 480 BC. It was the rebuilding phase of the Greeks after the crash of the Minoan and the Mycenaean civilization. The mindset of the Greeks were around this time can be understood by the poems of Hesiod, such as Work and Day and Theogony. Theogony, on the other hand, was the origins of the gods. Let's see. Pope.
Well, Brother Perseus, I'd like to state a few facts. It looks like there's not just one kind of strife, that's Eris after all, but two on the earth. You'd praise one of them once you got to know her, but the other's plain blameworthy. They've just got completely opposite temperaments. One of them favors war and fighting. She's a mean cuss and nobody likes her, but everyone honors her. This ornery heiress. They have to! It's God's will! The other was born first, though. Ebony Knight bore her, and Cronus' son, who sits high in thin air, set her in Earth's roots. And she's a lot better for humans. Even shiftless folks, she gets stirred up to work when a person's lazing about and sees his neighbor getting rich because he hurries to plow and plant and put his homestead in order. He tends to compete with that neighbor in a race to get rich. Strife like that does people good. So, Potter feuds with Potter, and Carpenter with Carpenter, and Beggar is jealous of Beggar, and Poet. Now, Perseus, you lay these things up in your heart, and don't let the mischief-loving Ares keep you from your work, spending all your time in the market eyeballing quarrels and listening to lawsuits. A person hasn't any business wasting time at the market unless he's got a year's supply of food put by, grain from Demeter, out of the ground. When you've got plenty of that, you can start squabbling over other people's money. Not that you're gonna get another chance with me. Let's settle this feud right now with the best kind of judgment, a straight one from Zeus. We had our inheritance all divided up, and then you made off with most of it, playing up to those bribe-eaten lords who love cases like this. Damn fools! Don't know the half from the whole, or the real goodness in Malos and Asphodel. You know, the gods never have let on how humans might make a living. Else you might get enough done in one day to keep you fixed for a year without working. You might just hang up your plowshare up in the smoke. And all the field work done by your oxen and hard-working mules would soon run to ruin. But Zeus got his spleen up and went and hid how to make a living. All because shifty Prometheus tricked him. That's why Zeus made life hard for humans. He hid fire, but that fine son of Iapeto stole it right back out from under Zeus's nose, hiding the flame in a fennel stalk. And thundering Zeus, who rides hard on the clouds, got angry and said, Iapeto's boy, if you're not the smartest of them all, I bet you're glad you stole fire and outfoxed me. Oh, but things will go hard for you and for humans after this. I'm gonna give them evil in exchange for fire, their very own evil to love and embrace. That's what he said, the father of gods and men, and he laughed out loud. Ha ha! And then he called Hephaestus and told him to hurry and knead some earth and water, and put a human voice to it, some strength, and to make the face like an immortal goddess's face, and the figure like a beautiful, desirable virgin. And then he told Athena to teach her embroidery and reeving, and Aphrodite golden to spill grace on her head, and painful desire, and knee-weakening anguish. And he ordered the quicksilver messenger, Hermes, to give her a bitchy mind and a cheating heart. Oh, that's what he told him. And they listened to Lord Zeus, Cronus' son, and right away famous old Gimpy plastered up some clay to look like a shy virgin just like Zeus wanted. And the owl-eyed goddess got her all dressed up, and the Graces divine, and Lady Persuasion put some gold necklaces on her skin, and the Seasons with their long, fine hair put on her head a crown of springtime flowers. Pallas Athena put on the finishing touches, and the quicksilver messenger put in her breast lies and wheedling words and a cheating heart, just like the rumbling Zeus wanted. And the god's own herald put a voice in her, and he named that woman Pandora, because all the Olympians donated something, and she was a real pain for human beings. When this piece of irresistible bait was finished, Zeus sent Hermes to take her to Epimetheus as a present, and the speedy messenger god did it. Epimetheus didn't think on what Prometheus had told him, not to accept presents from Olympian Zeus, but to send any right back, in case trouble should come of it to mortals. No, Epimetheus took it, and after he had the trouble, then he thought about it. Because before that, the human race had lived off the land without any trouble. No hard work, no sickness or pain that the fates give to men. But the woman took the lid off the big jar with her hand and scattered all the miseries that spell sorrow for men. Only hope was left there in that unbreakable container, stuck under the lid of the jar and couldn't fly out. The woman clamped the lid back on the jar first, all by the plan of the Aegis holder, cloud-herding Zeus. But 10,000 or so other horrors spread out among men. The earth is full of evil things, and so's the sea. Diseases wander about just as they please, by day and by night, soundlessly, since Zeus, in his wisdom, deprived them of voice. There's just no way you can get around the mind of Zeus. Don't let a sashaying female pull the wool over your eyes with her flirtatious lies. She's fishing for your barn. Trust a woman, you as well trust a thief. And if the spirit within you moves you to get rich, do as follows. Work, work, and then work some more. Now get out.
Here is a short clip about theogony.
So today we're going to understand that mess of the origin of the gods. Yes, soon enough you'll understand that mess is an extreme understatement. We know this theory of the origin from Hesiod's Theogony, which was a narrative of the Greeks' first mythical cosmogony. Let's begin. We're not sure how, but in the beginning there's an abyss of darkness. This is called chaos. After this first god follows Gaia, the Mother Earth, Tartarus of the depths of the earth, some say underworld, and Eros, the god of sexual desire. So to summarize, there's chaos, earth, underworld, and sexual desire. But remember, we can't see any of it because it is dark. Let's name this darkness. So, from chaos, the first deity to pop out of nowhere, asexually spawns Erebus, who is the darkness of this underworld, and Nyx, who is the darkness on Earth. When they mix, they create Aether, an outer atmosphere that the gods breathe. Then night spawns day and Phus light. Meanwhile, Gaia, remember, spawns Uranus the sky, Aurea the mountains, and Pontus the sea. Let's stick with Gaia. Because Eros, sexual desire, exists, the gods could stop this unreasonable spawning and began to have children the way we know it today, vivaporously. So Gaia tries this out with her son Uranus, whom she's been holding above her, and gives birth to 3 Hecatonchires, lovely monsters with 100 hands and 50 heads each, and then 3 Cyclops. After the mother and son produce these monsters, the genetics sort out somehow, and they have 12 gods called the Titans. Some say that Uranus hated the Hecatonchires, so he hid his children on Crete. Others say that he hated the Titans, so he shoved them back up from where they were born. Either way, Gaia was not happy and asked the Titans to help her out. Sticking with the second story, that Uranus shoved his children back into Gaia, when Uranus comes to have sex with Gaia, Kronos, who's been growing up inside her, chops off whatever he can get at from his angle. The blood hits the sea and creates more monsters, the Furies, giants, and nymphs. When his manliness hits the sea, it creates a foam which bears the child Aphrodite of love and desire. Now the Titans are freed and Kronos becomes the king. Now that that is solved, everything is peaceful, right? Let's see. Now we have Kronos as king and he marries his sister Rhea. They have children, and then Kronos hears a prophecy that one of his children will take his throne. Being his father's son, this freaks him out, so he decides that he therefore must eat them. Rhea keeps having kids, but each time she pops them out, her husband gobbles them up. Understandably, this disturbs Rhea, so upon the birth of her 6th son, Zeus, she hands her husband a baby-sized stone to eat. He thinks nothing of it and pops the stone. Meanwhile, Zeus grows up on Crete where the nymphs help raise him, and every time he cries, the guards bang their swords so Kronos won't hear him. When Zeus is older, he conspires with his grandma Gaia to get back at his dad, so they made Kronos throw up all of Zeus's brothers and sisters. When Kronos figures out what's happening, there's a battle, and Zeus does the only proper thing by chopping off his dad's genitals and tossing them into the sea. Karma much? Now Zeus is king because he frees the rest of his family. There's his siblings Hera, the goddess of marriage, Poseidon, god of the sea, Hades, god of the underworld, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, and Demeter, goddess of crops and harvest. These are the Olympians. Zeus keeps on taking control by banishing all the Titans of the last generation to the underworld. Zeus has one more great battle where his grandma Gaia had a kid with 100 heads covered by flame named Typhon. By now, Zeus has acquired the Thunderbolt and he is able to drive him down and sentence him to providing for volcanoes. Now the story doesn't end. Just like any other king god, Zeus marries and hears his kid is going to overthrow him. We all know that Zeus reigned on and his genitals did not join his father's, so what do you do to make him different? Well, rather than stuffing the kids back up or swallowing them himself, he just swallows his wife before she has any kids. What about Odysseus' Athena? Wasn't she one of Zeus's sisters? No, when Zeus swallows his wife, it turns out she was already pregnant with a girl, so the child pops out of Zeus's head after he swallows her mother. Who else other than the cunning daddy's girl Athena? From then on, no one else really challenges Zeus, so other gods are born from incestuous relations with each other and so on. Now you will probably take away from this.
During the Archaic Age, polis became very important. Hoplites are the type of Greek soldiers that were meant to protect the polis. Because of the Greek terrain being mountainous, polis or city-states started to pop out everywhere. All Greek citizens that were men were considered citizens and had a voice in the government. The development of citizenship also became prominent. Farmers who were forced to fight for their land, which led them to having a voice in their government. They were considered as hoplites. Their main weapons was a spear and a shield on the other hand. They formed phalanxes that were very successful during wartime. Classical period. The classical period was from 480 to 323 BC at the end of Alexander the Great. This is the time when the Greeks started to be in conflict with Persia. And then the Athens and Sparta. Also during this time, philosophers, historians, and political reforms were developed. The Persian War started when Cyrus the Great, the emperor of Persia, in 540 BC invaded a Greek colony in Ionia. The Athenians encouraged a rebellion in Ionia, which caused Darius, son of Cyrus, now the emperor of Persia, to invade in 490 BC. Darius lost the Battle of Marathon, and Xerxes, son of Darius, wanted revenge and took 250,000 men to Greece. This is where the movie 300 was based on. King Leonidas defended at the Battle of Thermopylae and eventually lost. This united the Greeks. Then the Greek politician named Themistocles had devised a plan to trap the Persian fleet, and the Greeks destroyed the fleet. The Persian tried again but was defeated by the Greeks. This started the decline of Persia. The victory over Persia put Athens on top of the Greek cities in 507 BC. A nobleman named Cleisthenes devised a new system of ruling that was citizen self-ruling. He called it Democratia. The Delian League was created by Athens for protection against other non-Greek invaders in 478 BC. It was a coalition of other polis which Athens was the head of. During this time, Pericles came into power. In his time, art and architecture flourished. Under Pericles, comedy and drama flourished at the Acropolis. Then the Peloponnesian occurred between Sparta and Athens from 431 BC to 404 BC. Archaeologists know what they know of the war predominantly through Thucydides. He was a general during a war that recorded everything thoroughly. He was considered a historian. Athens grew richer and stronger after the Persian War, causing the Spartans to see them as a threat. War was inevitable. In 465 BC, Spartan slave workers called Helots revolted. All Greek cities and states helped stop the revolt. Athens sent a large force, but was rejected by Sparta. They feared that such a large force could take over and not help. Then two members of the Peloponnesian League became at war. Megara and Corinth were at war. Athens ended up supporting Megara. The result was the First Peloponnesian War. In 445 BC, Athens and Sparta signed a 30-year peace. The Peloponnesian League was the equivalent of the Delian League, but when Spartans. In 445 BC, Athens and Sparta signed a 30-year peace agreement. Athens did not obey this agreement and was very hostile towards the Spartans. Athens was a bully. In 431 BC, the Peloponnesian War began. Athens made enemy of Sparta, Persia, the Peloponnesian League, and King of Macedon, and even its allies. Athens was prepared. It built the wall between Athens and its port in Piraeus. This meant the Spartans would have to go by sea to attack Athens. Athens had a very strong navy while Sparta was a land-based army. Unfortunately for the Athens, a plague occurred within its walls, killing many Athenians and its leader Pericles. The demagogues of Athens went to spiral down. They followed the crowd instead of leading them. One of these demagogues was Albiades. Albiades convinced the crowd to attack Sicily, but when he was called back, he joined with the Spartans. He then joined with the Athenians again, then the Persians, and he was eventually killed. There were many of these called demagogues. The constant shifting of demagogues and shifting war plan doomed Athens. With lack of leadership, their fleet was slowly destroyed. The Spartans eventually won. They tore down the wall and set up oligarchy, but within a year, the Athens was able to kick them out of Sparta, to kick out the Spartans and set up their democracy. The Spartans and democracies were weakened by one another. Eventually, Macedonia was able to conquer both Athens and Sparta with its king Philip II and his son Alexander the Great. In 336 BC, Alexander the Great ruled all Greece. Alexander the Great ruled from Macedonia through northern India. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great died. His generals divided the land he conquered among themselves. These times were called the Hellenistic period. The end.